I'm sure some of you are thinking that working out every single day is insane. And honestly, I tend to agree with you. When you're just getting into a new habit, aiming to do that thing every single day is usually just setting yourself up for failure. But after a while, the habits that really make you feel good are going to become easier to stick to more frequently and won't take as much motivation to get you going. I'm finally at a place where I can say confidently that for the past few months, I've been working out every single day, and it hasn't taken all my willpower, motivation, and energy to make that happen. So I want to share how I got here. I definitely have not always been this way, but I'm really happy that now I've found what actually works for me. So it's made it so much easier to stick to this habit that I consider to be non-negotiable in my life. So I want to share how I got there. So let's back up a little bit. First, I think it's important to have the context of why I'm working out every day. Why does this matter? Why is it even a goal of mine? So there are two main reasons. The first major one is that committing to regular exercise is one of the best things I've done for my mental health. When I'm working out, it's one of the only times in the day when my OCD is quiet. And even after I'm done working out, I feel the effects, the positive effects on my anxiety for hours after. So I consider it just as beneficial as meditation for me. And that's one reason why I've made it just part of my daily routine, no questions asked. The second reason is that I've personally found it to be easier to commit to doing something every day than to commit to doing something 3 days a week, for example. And this is 100% just a mindset trick. I acknowledge that, but I want to explain why it's easier for me in case you and your brain are similar to me. So let's say I commit to working out 3 days per week, which I've done many times in the past, made that my goal. It's so easy to push that off because you know that you have those 4 days of wiggle room when you're off exercise. So once you start pushing it and saying, well, I did put it on my calendar for today, but I'm not feeling that energetic, I'm tired, I'm busy, I'd rather do something else. You push it off. And then once that's happened, you kind of gave yourself permission to continue doing that. And so it's easy for those 3 days as your goal to become 2, to become 1, to 0, and constantly going back and forth between an on day, an off day, on again, off again with exercise. It kind of makes momentum go like that as well. And so it's constantly going up and then down and up and down again. And it's hard to just keep it going in one direction or another. Or in the worst case, momentum will be building in the direction of not working out, because after you push it off, it's easy for that to snowball. So I'd rather keep the momentum and the energy heading in the direction of doing the habit, doing the workouts, and that way it requires so much less brain power, motivation, willpower, because it's just a thing that I do every day, as simple as brushing my teeth. I'm gonna do it whether or not I really am in the mood, and I always feel better after. I think there are a lot of things where it's fine to kind of follow your motivation and your inspiration and just go in bursts. For example, when it comes to learning the piano, learning Spanish, there are some weeks where I'm super motivated and something has inspired me and I want to do that every day and just practice, but then the next week I might not do it at all, or it just kind of ebbs and flows, and I'm okay with that because not practicing piano or Spanish does not really have a strong impact on my long-term well-being, whereas exercise for me has such a profound impact on my physical and mental health, and we know that there are so many established benefits that I'm not really willing to just follow my motivation when it comes to exercise. So that's why I found that just this takes out so much guesswork, so much thinking, okay, is it Tuesday? Is that a day that I decided to work out or not? What's my schedule? It's just something that happens every day. Okay, so now my goal is going to be to convince you that I'm not just some gym freak that is overtaxing her body and has unrealistic standards, because I really don't want to promote something that is so rigid and so over the top that it's not actually healthy in the end. So I've already explained why I do this, but here's how I approach my daily workout mindset. Number one, I really lower the bar and broaden my definition of what exercise means to me. So when I say that I exercise daily, it does not mean that I spend an hour in the gym or go for a 5-mile run. It means that I carve out time to intentionally move my body in some way. So a lot of times that's just a 15-minute walk between meetings or before work. Other days it is something more intense. but it just keeps me focused on that daily habit and that daily practice of moving my body in a healthy way. So I've kind of figured out what I consider to be my daily bare minimum, and that's my target. So for me, currently it's like 15 minutes of movement, because I know that I can stick to that even on my very worst or busiest or low energy and motivation days. And I encourage you to do that too. Figure out what is just the baseline that you consider acceptable. Of course, excluding times when you are sick or have something like your wedding. Obviously, there are plenty of times where you can excuse yourself from this minimum, but in daily regular life, I consider 15 minutes to be my minimum target, and if I go over that, then that's awesome. And I do want to just show how even something so simple as committing to your bare minimum can add up over the course of the week. So for my example, 15 minutes, let's say I'm doing 15 minutes 7 days a week. Often I would do more, but let's pretend that this is like my worst week and I have nothing to give. So I'm just giving the bare minimum. 15 minutes times 7 is 105 total active minutes for the week. Whereas if I had done 3 days a week, a 30-minute workout, that's 90 minutes. So you can see how in many cases this actually adds up to be beneficial. So if you can commit to doing just a little bit daily and get yourself in that daily mindset, it can have a big impact over the course of the week. I've really embraced the mindset that if something is worth doing, it's worth doing badly. And so that means that even going to the gym and doing like a sort of half-assed workout, it's still better than doing nothing. It's still worth doing, even if it's not like an hour-long or high-intensity workout. The second thing that's helped a ton is figuring out what actually motivates me and what type of accountability system actually works. I have a background in personal training, so it's easy for me to just say, oh, I'll design myself a workout, but I've done that in the past and I never stick to my own program. It just, I don't feel motivated by it, and I don't feel like holding myself accountable is really enough. So I've learned over time that I really like following somebody else's program, something that someone else designed. So right now I'm following a strength training program. Sometimes I'll do one of the Peloton like Power Zone programs. I find that super motivating. And the other component of that is that whether or not I'm following a program, I do like to follow along with something. So if I'm following along with the program, then I know exactly what I'm doing. But if I don't have that, or on the other days where I'm not doing the strength training program, I like to have an instructor that I'm just mimicking. So I'm not a huge fan of like in-person group classes. If that's your thing, then that's a great way to implement this style of motivation and accountability. But for me, just following a YouTube video of somebody qualified, or doing a Peloton workout and having the instructor and following along with them, that's enough for me. So those two things make a big difference. The other thing is, now there are so many, types of wearable technology. I've tried a Fitbit, but I recently switched from Android to Apple, and I bought my mom's old Apple Watch off of her. And for some reason, this freaking watch has just been a game changer. I don't know why. I don't know why the rings system seems to work better to motivate me and give me accountability. Like I want to close my rings every day. Whereas when I had the Fitbit, I didn't really feel that compelled to meet my goals. My family all has Apple, which is a big reason why I switched. And we can all communicate with each other through the watch and like send each other encouraging messages when we close our rings or finish a workout. So I love doing that for them, and it really motivates me when I finish a workout and I get one of the like quick little replies from somebody in my family saying good job or whatever. I can't explain it, but that just does something, and it makes me want to go do some intentional movement every day. So it might sound silly, but figure out what that is for you. It could be working with a trainer, it could be doing a class in a studio. I do think that the social aspect is important. So whether you're just in a chat with your friends who have similar goals, or going to group classes, or participating in like an online challenge with your work or with Peloton, whatever, involve other people basically. That's one of my big takeaways. I also learned that I'm really motivated by streaks and seeing my streaks and my progress over time, my consistency over time. So I've tried things like using a habit tracker like in Notion, a template. I've also tried doing it in my bullet journal, just like physically writing what I did each day. those things didn't really do it, but man, this Apple Watch streak, like, I don't want to break it. So maybe the bullet journal method works for you. Maybe a template or an app will work for you. Maybe, like me, closing your Apple rings works for you. But again, try different methods and see what actually gets you fired up. The third thing that's helped me is knowing my mental cutoff time, I want to call it. For me, I'm a morning person, and there have been plenty of times in my life where I've, scheduled my gym time to be after work. And I learned through repeated failures, if you want to call it that. By the time 2 p.m. rolls around, the chance of me actually completing my workout just goes down. I don't even really lose energy, but it just stops appealing to me. I'm like, there's so many other things I could be doing in the evening. I have chores, I gotta start dinner, whatever, feed the cats. It's just really easy for other things to come up at that point. So I know that it works best for me to fit in my workout before 2 p.m., whether that means getting up before work, doing something during my break, whatever. I do acknowledge that I'm lucky that I have some flexibility in my schedule, that I can do that during my break. If you don't, you can still apply this concept by figuring out what times are available to you to work out before, during, after work, and of those options, which aligns best with your energy levels and your drive and your preferences. And then just try to do that as best you can. And if you can't, then having a workout buddy could help a lot. And lastly, I have figured out what I enjoy for workouts, and I do that consistently, but I also keep some variety. So it's changed throughout my life, but lately the things that I love to do are weight training, using a stationary bike, walking, and doing some jump roping. I kind of just alternate those things, and that adds enough variety in my week. But also within each thing, I can do a different style of bike workout, or I can listen to something different when I walk, or walk inside and then outside. And with my weight training, I can switch up the program, follow a new one. So there's enough ways to keep it interesting where I'm not getting bored and losing my desire to keep this habit going. Try different things and figure out what would you actually feel motivated to stick to, and know that you can switch it up when you need to, because sometimes it just comes down to you're bored, and that might be why you're not following through with your habit. So I know that I'm not going to work out every day for the rest of my life. I'm not trying to be delusional here, and these tips are not meant to perpetuate some unrealistic standard or obsession with exercise, but I really have found a way to make this part of my daily routine, something that I don't have to think about anymore. And it's been surprisingly easy to stick to once I just made it a daily mindset thing. So if you're like me and you've been struggling to stick to a schedule, see what happens when you just say, I work out every day. And to do that, try lowering your bar for exercise, expanding how you define exercise, figuring out what motivates you, what type of accountability is actually going to work for you, and see if that helps to make it part of your daily routine.